Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me. Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Come on in. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. How you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. Tell me, how you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. 'Cause I heard all the people saying, get down on it. Come on and get down on it. If you really want it, get down on it. You gotta feel it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Come on and get down on it. Baby, baby. Get down on it. Get on it. Get down on it. I say, people, what you gonna do? You gotta get on the groove if you want your body to move. Tell me, baby, how you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. Tell me, how you gonna do it if you really won't take a chance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. 'Cause I heard all the people saying, get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. When you're dancing, get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Sha-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo. Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? Get your back up off the wall. Dance, come on. Get your back up off the wall. Dance, come on. Get down on it. Come on in. Get down on it. If you really want it, get down on it. You gotta feel it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down. Come on in. Get down on it. Baby, baby. Get down on it. Get down. Get on it. Get down on it. How you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. Tell me, baby, how you gonna do it if you really won't take a chance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. Listen, baby, you know it. Oh, when you're dancing, yeah, you show it. Oh, when you move, 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 you know it. Oh, when you're dancing, yeah, you show it. As you move across the floor, get down on it. Come on and get down on it. If you really want it, get down on it. You gotta feel it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Come on and get down on it. Baby, baby. Get down on it. Get on it. Get down on it. Sha-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? Get your back up off the wall. Dance, come on. Get your back up off the wall. Dance, come on. Get down on it. Come on and get down on it. If you really want it, get down on it. You gotta feel it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Come on and get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. While you're dancing, get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Oh, 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 yeah. Get down on it. You move me, baby, when you move. Get down on it. 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 Get your back up off the wall. Get down on it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Advantage. I'm your host, Michael Fiddle. Today is Thursday, October 31st. Happy Halloween to anyone who celebrates. Personally, it's the worst holiday in the world. I eat too healthy to enjoy Halloween. Today we are going to be breaking down a 4-game NBA slate. On the card, we will review best bets and market moves. I am waking up to seeing some extreme line movement in some of these totals. We will reflect on where our positions are, where some potential prop angles are going to be for these games. I can answer any questions in the chat. Only a 4-game slate, should be pretty quick. Let's get in and out of here in the next 15 minutes or so. Quickly about last night. Oh, am I bruised up? Can you see the bruises on my face? I got beat up last night in what I thought would have been a great card. Had Orlando Magic 5.5, closes at 6. My favorite key number to have. They go up like 19 or something, lose outright. I have the Clippers minus 7.5. Gave out the Clippers money line on other shows once it became 8.5, and that moves through the range that I'm still willing to play a spread. Great CLV through the 8. Outright loss. Celtics minus 6.5. Moves through the 7. Closes at 7.5. Outright loss. I literally had obtained closing line value on NBA favorites through the 6th, through the 7, through the 8, and got a middle finger on all 3. So shitty day. Those things happen. It's frustrating sometimes in this space to be do objectively great work and then have you lose money. Like, what other jobs do you go to work, do really good work for a few hours, and then leave with less money? Some financial analyst or trading or something like that. Yeah, it fucking sucks on those days, but you keep chugging along. You keep putting yourselves in those positions relative to those numbers, and you have a good long-term outcome. Before we officially get started on the 4-game breakdown, let me remind everyone to please rate, review, subscribe on the podcast platform. To check out recoveryforathletes.com, the sponsor for this podcast. They're the #1 online retailer for all your home recovery equipment needs. If you need a home ice tub, it's almost winter, so maybe you need a home sauna or just some weights and a Theragun, check out recoveryforathletes.com. Use code THEADVANTAGE. And if you want to ride along with all of my picks, hopefully they do better than they did last night, check out the WAP that is linked in my Twitter bio, in this podcast description, and on the YouTube description as well. Let's get this thing started. I will bring up the FanDuel odds screen. Starts with the Milwaukee Bucks at the Memphis Grizzlies. We have 4 games on the slate. Like I said, 3 of them have situations that include some sort of back-to-back. And now, holy shit, the total is absolutely insane right now. When I talk about there's been some big movements on the board, without a doubt, it has to be Milwaukee Bucks and Memphis Grizzlies. This opened at 223.5. Climbed up to 225, went back down to 223, and now it's sitting here at 232. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies are the team that is on the back-to-back. They played at home last night against the Brooklyn Nets. And the key thing, as I was handicapping these games and headed to bed last night, was noticing, okay, Marcus Smart and Desmond Bane both went down in this game. Are they both going to be playing? Jaren Jackson Jr. is coming off of a recent hamstring injury. Now, he's back and he's active, but what's his expectation going to be for a second night of a back-to-back, especially against Giannis and Brook Lopez, where the bigs are very important? So uncertain on how to handle that Grizzlies opening +5 line. I was looking at Milwaukee Bucks pretty heavily. It's been nearly impossible to want to back this Milwaukee Bucks team against the spread as a road favorite at a decent number. So I couldn't pull the trigger. Pulled the trigger on the over at 224.5. There was a live middle last night between 224.5 and 226.5 on this game. Played them both and played it tilted towards the over. So I got more of my position on that over. Now sitting at 232. This is actually crazy. You know, I'm reading this and saying Jaren Jackson Jr. probably has to be out. He's too good of a defender for this line to pop 8 points. You would think Marcus Smart is also out. That was kind of my assumption from the beginning. When I saw the Marcus Smart injury, I'm about to roll the clip. I'll do it right now. I thought Marcus Smart was out when I saw this.
Right there. Right ankle turn.
So you can see he steps on Zaire Williams, who Zaire was on the Grizzlies the last few years. Now he's been kind of dumped off to the Nets, was a young prospect that the Grizzlies traded up for in the draft, was really hoping it could become their 3. And since then, and that has not worked, they've been trying to trade 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, trying to get in on the Paul George sweepstakes. They'll do whatever they can to get their hands on a wing. They wanted OG Anunoby as well. Memphis Grizzlies still looking for that last piece. They were actually probably hoping Marcus Smart could have been that for them. Now you see that ankle turn on the first night of a back-to-back. You can't possibly think that Smart's going to be there ready for the second night. If that's a decent ankle sprain over the next few days, like, he's not going to be playing. I'm going to put up Desmond Bane's injury and show that video now. When I saw this, my thought was, okay, maybe Dez does play. Let's watch the Desmond Bane injury and see how that happened as well.
To give you an idea, Schroeder, as I said, 20-plus in each of the last 3 games. Jaren finds an open Morant who casts from 3, and the rebound falls to Bane. Morant will try it again. Miss again, and the rebound is Simmons. The last time that Schroeder had 3 straight 20-plus, he was with the Lakers a couple of years ago. Finney Smith, the finish. Yeah.
You know, now that I'm watching that back for a 5th time, there has to be some real uncertainty around Desmond Bane too. He raised his arm to check himself out like 3 times on that possession to make sure that he had someone coming off the bench for him. It was labeled as an oblique injury that he would not return. Obviously, he gets a rebound, makes a pass, still jogs down the court, and takes himself out of the game. It was not like an abrupt can't move type of situation where it almost was for Marcus Smart. If Desmond Bane is out, you would think the total probably drops back a bit, if anything. I don't know how this is priced with relative to the Desmond Bane news, but the spread moving from +5 on the Grizzlies side to 6.5, a 1.5 furthering as a road favorite on these Milwaukee Bucks right now, these untrustworthy Milwaukee Bucks right now. You have to think that that's bad news bears for maybe everyone besides Ja Morant playing. That's like the quote unquote star for this Memphis Grizzlies team. Zach Edey would be the player that I would look for in the props market. Now, last night that was 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I would look towards his over. He was the preseason favorite for Rookie of the Year. This is a situation where on the front end of the second leg of a back-to-back at home, you're going to rely on some of those young guys. Obviously, Edey is not a guy who's going to get heavy minutes probably ever, but he's going to be relied upon to be available for back-to-backs, especially if Jaren's out, especially if, Desmond Bane and Smart are not out there. You're going to run more of an inside-out offense for this game. So a little bit surprised to see this much movement in the total. Now, if you don't have a 224 ticket already, if you're looking at this now and it's 232, like it's under or nothing at this point, but I don't know how you could play it under and fade this kind of movement in the market. But there might be some buyback that comes back at certain points because this is an extreme amount of movement. And when we saw it last night, like it went 223 to 225 and then back to 223. It wasn't even like 223 was a misprice and it should have been 222. It was not a typo. We have the same numbers in different order. It was not a typo. We saw it reverb around those numbers, and then probably on this likely injury news, we'll see around shoot around in a few hours, but you can't expect these Memphis guys to play. Bucks or nothing. Skip the total or fade the market with an under at this point, but you cannot buy into now, what is that, 8.5 points of steam. Shout out to Drew Johnson, who will be hosting this podcast tomorrow. I know for damn sure he has an over 223 ticket. Well done, buddy. Fucking well done. Let's talk about the Houston Rockets at the Dallas Mavericks. This is the one game where there is no back-to-back situation. Both of these teams did not play last night. Obviously, we are the two Texas teams, so the travel should be lighter for both of these teams. Opening line was Mavericks -5, and we're now seeing it steam out to 6.5. So clear Mavericks sharp action coming in, fading this young Houston Rockets team, this Mavericks team looking like they're already in midseason form. And Luka Doncic speaking to that after the win, after motherfucking the crowd again for an 18th time in Minnesota. You are a Minnesota fan. If you are an Anthony Edwards guy, if you guys are A1 from day one with Ant-Man, you must hate Luka. But whew, it is crazy to see him in that building. Opens 5, moves to 6.5. In the ones where we have no back-to-back and there's kind of a cleaner injury report to expect, it's a little bit easier to cap, especially at the start of this season, especially with what we're seeing this season. A lot of bouncing numbers. Probably some uncertainty about how teams are going to approach some of these back-to-backs, if they're going to be pace up with a lot of threes, if they're going to be resting certain players. Obviously, the Pelicans end up resting CJ McCollum and Herb Jones yesterday. Other teams, kind of like Ja Morant, already said he's going to be out there again. Giannis is going to be out there again. Giannis has already played back-to-backs on an injury report. We won't mention the 76ers and how they might handle back-to-backs, because there was a crazy press conference with Nick Nurse where Nick Nurse is asked the first thing when he gets up to the podium, how do you feel about fans buying tickets and not knowing whether your stars are going to play? And Nurse is like, that's quite a question to begin a press conference. And then gives a complete nothing burger of an answer. Shout out to the WNBA podcast that we used to do and talk about how great the coach and players interviews are in the WNBA. Now, it's been great to get back to the NBA. I love this league. I love these teams. I love the product. This is my favorite. This is the bread and the butter. But hearing that stuff from Nick Nurse, hearing those mush answers, it's just that's the worst part about this. Ty Lue shows up to the press conference last night. I mean, reason to be pissed if you're a Clippers supporter, player, coach. If you're Ty Lue, reason to be pissed last night. Ty Lue just shows up to the interview, just head down, staring at the box score in front of him, damn near speechless. What's the point of all the press conference stuff then, if that's the attitude that we get? In this total, it's opened at 227.5 and it's come down to 225.5. I definitely agree with that line movement in the total. I've been playing a lot of Mavericks unders. There's been situational spots to avoid it thus far. It's been very good. I'm not sure if I've lost a single Mavericks under this season. That's been the wagon for me. Part of the good start for me this season. However, being on the -5, I didn't want to also play a total that was dropping. So those things are slightly inversely correlated. Not really, because the 5 is not too long of a spread. 225 is not too low of a number. So you're kind of floating in this zone. I had a position on my Mavericks -5. I saw it in a good spot and said, all right, we are good for this game. San Antonio Spurs travel to Utah. Second night of a back-to-back for the Spurs. And they... did the Jazz play last night too? No. Okay. Second night of a back-to-back for the Spurs. They played in OKC last night. Crazy backdoor cover for anyone on that Spurs 12.5. Send a handwritten note to the gambling gods. Send a handwritten note to whoever hit that late 3 when they were down 15 to make it 12. A meaningless 3. Send a handwritten letter to whoever on OKC had that meaningless foul with under a minute left, giving San Antonio 2 free throws. Gifted cover for San Antonio Spurs backers. Congratulations, though. You deserve lucky wins are deserved. Now we're seeing this is a tough travel situation for San Antonio to go back to back from potentially one of the best teams in the league, who the Spurs want to get up for because of the Wemby-Chet rivalry. Like, that's a prioritization of Wembanyama in the season. Only 3 of them this season, too. Found that out last night. We talk about how you play the same teams in your conference 4 times throughout the year. There's like 3 or 4 situations where you only play that team 3 times. And now we learned earlier in the season that the Wizards and Boston Celtics were one of those. We were looking at the lines saying, how could this line move for future in the season? How could we maybe get ahead of closing line value that we might see coming? And we looked up the schedule spot and said, damn, this is one of the situations where you only play 3 times. Well, last night I learned, damn, Spurs OKC is one of those situations that only plays 3 times. Letter to the league, memo to the league. We want 4 of them. We want as much Chet Wemby as we can handle Fucking move the schedule around and change that shit. Give us 4 Chet Wembys for eternity. And then when those teams are no longer on the same teams or in that matchup, then reduce how much of those teams play each other. I feel like we should tailor. I know it's definitely not tailored. It's fixated on which teams you play 3 times. It'll cycle each year, but a shitty season to not get the Chet Wemby matchup. Let's talk specifically about this Spurs Jazz. Like I said, Spurs front end of a brutal road trip. You go against OKC, which you're getting up for, and then you have to go to Utah, which is early season travel into elevation. Now, the Spurs have either a very young team or a very old team. They're like a black and white cookie. They're not much in between for the Spurs. You're either old and on your last legs, like you're Chris Paul, or you're quite young and a bit inexperienced, like your Wembanyama or Malachi Branham or Stephon Castle or something like that. A lot of Malachi Branham last night. That guy kind of impressed me. Keldon Johnson got ejected, so I expect Keldon to play the second leg and be very fresh. We've seen almost no movement in the spread for this game. However, a lot of this probably hinges on Lauri Markkanen's availability. He left the Jazz last game with back spasms. Now, as someone who's had multiple back surgeries, 4 of them. Yep. 4 of them. Call me Tiger Woods. This could go either way. He can wake up feeling fucking great, or he can wake up feeling miserable. I know that life quite a bit. There's really no way to know which way that goes. This has been hanging here the whole time. The movement that's been crazy has been in the total. 229.5 last night. Now it's 221.5. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. We right now have Chris Paul and Lauri Markkanen questionable on the injury report. Nothing much else. So 8 points of a drop without much change in the spread. Now, if you're going to tell me that Markkanen's going to be out, and that's going to drop the total 4.5 points, sure. What else is going on with this? Now, again, his name is Drew Johnson. Right now, he's playing poker, probably 6 tables at once. That's what he does. Literally 6 tables at once. Psychopath. And he'll be hosting the podcast tomorrow. And he's got an under 229. So good for that son of a bitch. Hell of a ticket. Come join him tomorrow. And hopefully you can have 8 points of closing line value, because that's not a ticket I have. I have nothing on this game. There was too many injuries that I was concerned about. But if you were in front of that directional movement, you are already locked into such massive, massive value. Well done. Phoenix Suns at LA Clippers. Opening line was 4. Got us out to like a heavy 5, an expensive 5. Steve Fezzik would call that a 5.25 when you're taking juice before the number has moved. You call it a decimal point, 5.25. If that's a minus 115 on your minus 5, come back a little bit. The reason for that move was in real time as the Clippers were playing the Portland Trailblazers and in a heated fourth quarter. Like, they had a strong third quarter Clips. They go into the fourth quarter up 7. I'm looking at it like, holy shit. Am I going to get lucky and kind of cover this 7.5 that looked shitty? Closed at 8.5, looked great, then looked kind of shitty all game. Am I actually gonna come out on top? Are the people who tailed the money line once I reverted to the money line play gonna get really lucky and have it be one of those ones where you're lucky as hell you took the money line? DeAndre Ayton makes his second 3 of the year. Donovan Clingan makes his first NBA 3. Simons pulls up from deep, and the Clippers miss 4 free throws in the last minute and lose by 1. Script writers had me all night. Bruises are all over my body. That's why I'm in a long sleeve. Unbelievable. For this game, second time the Suns are at Intuit Dome. Clippers have not won one at Intuit Dome. Holy shit. Do you remember how much we've talked about? Well, they need to keep Kawhi and Paul George so that they have stars going into their new building. Clippers are opening up an arena in 24-25. They want to make sure that, fans are going to want to be there. It seems like fans are going to want to be there because it's a cool fucking building. You're playing Harden, Zubac, and Norm Powell. Kawhi's on the roster, nowhere to be found. Paul George, other side of the country. So, tough way for the Clippers to start the Intuit Dome. The Phoenix Suns would end up having a roaring fourth quarter comeback in the first time they played there and winning in overtime. Kevin Durant pulling out a crazy falling mid-range classic Kevin Durant to send it to tie the game, to force overtime. And then the Suns would pull away. I'm on a Suns -4. Notice the directional stuff. Ty Lue comes out in the press conference. Like, I saw it get to 5 and a juiced 5. Ty Lue comes out in the press conference and says, how are your guys going to be handled on a back-to-back? And he says, we'll be ready. I believe that was the quote. We'll be ready. Kawhi won't be ready, but maybe the rest of the guys will. Rusty says, such a Clippers way to start, though. Quite literally. Shout out to the Sharps that were blasting the Clippers under and getting ahead of some of that Kawhi news as it happened right before the season. Now, that win total dropped 43 to 41 to 38 to 35. Like, woo. Clippers win total got beat down more than me last night. You can make some jokes. If you can laugh at yourself, you can hang in there. So yeah, I'm on the -4 here. I really don't have much of an angle to this game anymore. I will check the odds screen and see. We got 4.5s pretty much everywhere. You got a 5 at Circa right now. So if you do want to still play a 4.5 and think this does potentially close at the 5, that's a possibility. ESPN Bet has a -110. Bet 365 has a -110. FanDuel has a -110. DraftKings -112. BetMGM -115. In the total, let's quickly check the total for this game. Open was, yeah, this has been all over the place. This is open at 221.5. It went as high as 223.5. We're back down to 221. A lot of mixed signals. It's probably all relative to the injury report and Ty Lue coming out and saying, we'll be ready. Now, how you want to evaluate those things? Is this a bounce back Clippers spot? Second night of a back-to-back? I don't know. It was a tough way to go out because it's a very physical game. You kind of get beat up when you play the Portland Trail Blazers. They're just so big. We'll see. You would imagine a classic bounce back spot in this situation for teams, given the way that they lost and given the way that they've actually played well this season, but had some tough losses. But I got no opinion. That's going to be that they're definitely talent deficit in this spot. And how much is the home court advantage truly a home court advantage? If I was living in LA and going to this game, I wouldn't really care if the Clippers won. I'd be going to see Durant, Beal, and Booker. So that's going to do it for me. I got Phoenix Suns -4. Glad to have a Phoenix Suns -4 if this is going to close at 4.5. And if Circa's listing a 5 and some other sharper books are listing a 5, sign me up for it. We're seeing reverb in the total. Complete stay away. This total, Spurs Jazz total, dropped 8 points so far. 8 points so far. What does that signal for Lauri Markkanen's availability? We will see. Now, if Lauri Markkanen's available, this 2 probably becomes a 3, maybe 3.5. I'm not sure where this is being priced, as if he's this is not priced as he's out. This is priced as he's questionable. So we'll get half the movement that Lauri's in. You'll get a bump. If Lauri's out, it'll go the other way. This is not moving around key numbers. If anyone's looking for a late play tonight, if anyone's trying to watch the injury report to watch shoot around and try and still get on something for today, I would look Jazz. That would be definitely my direction for this game if I had any play. I have the Mavericks -5 as it sits at 6.5. Sign me up for that. There's been movement towards the under in this total. 227.5 coming down to 225.5. Mavericks unders have been great. There's been situations that we've played them after they've already moved 2 points, and they've been pretty solid still. I have not played a single Mavericks under that's lost. Grizzlies, Bucks. Bucks action, over action. I'm on the over 224.5 in a middle spot, but tilted in that direction. And then let's talk a little football real quick. Does it make you want to throw up if I told you I'm on the New York Jets -1.5, a 2-6 team versus a 6-2 team, and I'll take the 2-6 team as the favorite? Does it make you want to throw up? Partly, yes. This is a classic pros versus Joes. Sharps versus squares, however you want to put it. You look at the odds screen, you understand that the 2 has become slightly more valuable. Now, there's inflammatory words if people call the 2 a key number. I'm not going to get into it. I will say you could check my key numbers charts that I just released in the WAP for this season's first 8 weeks and the last 3 seasons. So if you think 2 is an emerging key number, literally go check the data. Just published it for you. Every Sharper book has that at 2. Pinnacle at 2.5. And I believe as of last night, there were still some 1.5s remaining on the board, and they were at the rec shops, and they were sitting there with the 1.5, which I would assume at the rec shops, more people want Texans. And when you sit it there at 1.5, even at 2, even though the same exact situation applies to 2, but you're giving a slightly worse teaser on the Texan side, I almost think you invite people to tease things when game sits at 1.5 or 2.5, even more than 2. Even though it's still absolutely a Wong teaser, especially if you're at a book that allows pushes on teasers. There's some books that pushes just an outright loss on the entire card. So if you're at one of those books, you have to play. If you're on a 2, you have to play a 6.5 point teaser and pay the -130. Still worth it situationally in some spots. DraftKings has the -1.5. BetMGM has the -1.5. This morning, FanDuel moves to 2.5. Fanatics moves to 2.5. It's a clear as ever day sharp spot, jet spot. So do what you will with that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Thank you to everyone who tuned in early with me today. Jets do or die tonight, says Steven. Yeah, I think the Jets are already dead. But yes, I agree. Rusty says, I'll never get over the name WAP. I just WAP. Shout out Cardi B. I should edit the Cardi B into the WAP song like I did for Kendrick and like I've done for some other things that have been funny clips added to the show. That'll do it. Thank you to everyone for tuning in early with me. Thank you to everyone who's joined me throughout the week. Please remember to come check out Drew Johnson hosting the show tomorrow. It will start back at the normal 12 p.m. Eastern time. There is a 9-game slate that Drew will be breaking down tomorrow. It includes 2 repeat playoff matches. I believe that's Denver and Minnesota. How many games those teams play? 7? I believe it includes Orlando and Cleveland. How many games do those 2 teams play? 7? So some great matchups tomorrow. Some great spots situationally. Hopefully you guys come join Drew and check out the show. I will be back on Monday next week, Monday through Friday, Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you to everyone for joining me. Again, please rate, review, subscribe on the podcast platform. Please drop a comment on the YouTube channel. Please like the tweet. Please subscribe to all those things. I'm terrible for asking for those things, but please do it. I actually always just have Patrick Beverly do it for me at the end of the podcast. And of course, if you want to join with me and ride with my plays throughout the season, it was a blistering start to the season, plus 9 units. I've been a punching bag the last 3 days at -7 units. So overall right now, my October, I'll pull up the stats. As we head into the last day, October is 89-71. and plus 8.39 units. So it was just a fucking dominant month, and headed to be a month where I did 2 months of return in 1 month. And then I got slapped in the last few days, and we're back to it just being a normal month. If I go plus 8 or so units in a given month, you're looking at plus 96 to 100 units on the year. You are right there on your pace and right there on your trajectory. So despite a few losing days, it's still been a good month. It just was no longer a fucking dominant month. Let's hope to finish the card off well. Maybe we get this back over a plus 10 unit month, and I end up celebrating Halloween with a sweet treat. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Some words from Patrick Beverley as we say peace out.
Y'all subscribe to my podcast by y'all asking all these questions.
Don't forget to subscribe to the pod. And if you're a kid, listen to your parents. Listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents.
Subscribe to the pod.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod, man.
Good, those are good.